In this video, I'm going to show you how to compute a scale score. Oftentimes in our research, we're using some type of questionnaire or scale that someone else has developed to measure a construct. The example we're going to use here is the perceived stress scale. The perceived stress scale is a 10-item scale that measures perceived stress among adolescents and adults. Cohen developed this scale back in 1983 so that we could use it without cost for our research. You'll see that there are 10 items that comprise this scale. We wouldn't do an analysis on each and every item because we want to measure the construct of perceived stress. It'd be similar to us if we were measuring the construct of IQ and we gave a person 100 questions that measure their IQ. We wouldn't do an analysis on each one of those 100 items. We would simply do an analysis on their IQ score. So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to compute the scale score for the perceived stress scale. Again, we have 10 items. And one of the things that you'll notice in the article or from the documentation of any questionnaire or scale, the author will often give you the scoring instructions. So they'll tell you exactly how you should create the scale score. So in this case, what we're going to do is we've got 4 reverse coded items. And you'll see these are reverse coded items because 1, the developer or author tells us they are, and 2, you can see that they go a different way when we are measuring stress. So for the first item, it says, how often have you been upset because of something that happened unexpectedly? So if somebody's stressed out, they're going to say very often. But look at this item number 3. How often have you felt confident about your ability to handle your personal problems? Well, we'd expect somebody to be stressed out would say very often. So, or never. So what we need to be able to do here is reverse code this. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this 1 a 5, and this 2 is going to be a 3. And then of course the 3 will stay a 3, the 4 will be a 2, and a 5 will be a 1. So how we're going to do that is fairly simple in SPSS. In SPSS, what we're going to do is we're going to use the Recode function to create a new variable that will be our recoded variable, and then we're going to sum up all of those variables to get the single perceived stress score. So to compute a new variable, we're going to go to transform, and we're always going to recode into different variables. You never want to recode into the same variable because if you make a mistake, you will not be able to go back and fix it. So we're always going to use recode into different variables. So again, under the transform menu, we're going to select recode into different variables, and that'll bring up the recode into different variables dialog box. What we're going to do is select the items that we want to recode. The first item that I want to recode is number 3. In this case, it's Q8 underscore 3. And so if we go back again, we can see number 3, 5, 7, and 8 are the ones that we want to recode. So if we go back to our data file, we're first going to do number 3. We're going to move that over here. And what it's asking you is, well, what do you want to recode it into? What new variable? And what I like to do is I'll make a variable name that'll be similar, but I'll put recode at the end. So I'm going to put Q8 underscore 3, and I can just go RC. And I don't need to really specify a label because I'm not going to use anything for that. Now I'm going to click on change, and what I'm telling SPSS to do is recode the variable Q8 underscore 3 to a new variable or a different variable called Q8 underscore 3 recode. So it's going to create this new variable called Q8 3R recode. Now what I need to do is specify the old and new values. So I'm going to click on old and new values, and it gives us a number of different options. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put the old value and then tell it what the new value should be. So again, if we go back here, we're going to take all the ones for these recoded items, these 4 recoded items. or take all the 1s and have them make it a 5. And the 2s are going to be a 4, and the 3s are going to stay a 3. The 4s will be recoded into 2, and the 5s will be coded into 1. That way, when we compute the entire perceived stress scale, the higher the value, the more perceived stress people have. So again, if we take this item, how often have you felt things were going your way? What we need to make sure is that this 1 is now a 5 if they scored a 1, because that would represent that they never feel things are going their way, so they would have higher stress. So we're going to take the 1s and turn them into 5s, 2s into 4s, 3s will stay 3s, 4s will be 1s, and 4s will be 2s, and 5 will be 1. So let's go ahead and finish that. So if they're going to be a 1 here, then we're going to make them a 5, and then we're going to click on add. So the old value is 1, the new value is 5. 2s will be 4s, and then I'll click on add. 3s are going to stay 3, and then 4s are going to be, you guessed it, a 2, and 5s are going to be a 1. So now what I've done is I've told it to recode for that new variable. If the old variable is a 1, in the new variable it's going to be a 5. And then I'm going to click on continue. And I can do that for my other variables as well at the same time. So I'm going to need to do that for number 5, number 7, and number 8. So I'll go find number 5 here. And I'm going to call that Q8 underscore 5 RC. And I'll click on change. And again, I'm going to use my same and old and new values, so I'm okay there. And then the next one I need to do is 7 and 8. So I'll find number 7. Make this a little wider so I can see it. So I'll move 7 over there and 8 over there. So this one's going to be Q8 underscore 7RC and change, and this one's going to be Q8 underscore 8RC. And click on change. Again, I've still got my old and new values, and now I need to click on change. Oops, messed that one up there, so that goes back to 7. This is going to be Q8 underscore 8RC. Click on change. So we want to double check here to make sure that we've named these right. Now we can click on OK. Now notice it's going to write that command to the output file in the log. And if we go back to our data file, we can see that those recoded values are there at the end. And we're going to use these when we compute our score. What I'll do now is I'll show you how to compute a new variable. So what we want to do is we want to compute a variable. So we're going to click on transform and then compute variable. And what we're going to do here is we're going to make that overall perceived stress score, that one variable that represents their perceived stress score. So I'm going to call this PSS for perceived stress score. I'm going to make the label PSS, and then what I like to do is put low to high, so the higher value means more stress. And then what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to sum them up, because that's exactly what it says to do in the scoring instructions. Sum up all of these values here, but now we need to use the recoded ones for the ones that needed to be recoded. So now what I'm going to do is recode the ones that I need. So I'm going to click on the first one and move that over there, and since I'm summing, I'm going to go plus, and then the next one, which is Q82 plus, remember I'm summing these up. Now notice that we don't want to use this Q8 underscore 3 here, we want to get that recoded value, because we recoded the scale score because of the reverse scoring on it. Now we'll do number 4 plus Remember, we had number 5 that was recoded. So we'll come back up here and we'll get number 6 plus, and then remember we've got the 7 that's recoded plus, and then the 8 that was recoded plus, and then we'll go get 9 and 10 back up here plus, and then 10. So we can see we're summing up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Those 10 items, but we're using the recoded values for item number 3, 5, 7, and 8. Then we're going to click on OK. It's going to write that command to the output file. And if we go to end of our data file, we'll see that there's the perceived stress score. If we go to data view, we'll see that that perceived stress score is here at the end. So now what we have is we have this score that represents their perceived stress. With the higher the score, the more stress the person has. So for example, we can see here this person doesn't have a whole lot of stress going on in their life, and we can see if we go down here they have a lot of stress that's going on in their life, and looks like there's some variability there. So again, what we did is we used the scoring instructions from the developer or the author of the questionnaire or scale. We noticed we had some reverse coded items that we needed to handle first using the recode into different variables command in SPSS. Once we recoded those reverse scored items, then what we're able to do in SPSS is compute a scale score based on the instructions. In this case, what we did is we used the compute variable command, and we said sum up all of these items. So we said sum up items 1 through 10 to give us a sum of the score. And well, always, if you have any questions, make sure that you contact me or stop by during my office hours.